So the second part of the sales have finally arrived. The vehicle pack major sale that is 50% off everything in the store minus some of the vehicles found in the Fire and Ice update as well as the drone age. Now, I wasn't really going to do this video to begin with, but after seeing how many of you guys, both in the live streams, in my Discord community, which, by the way, you should totally join, as well as here on YouTube, I figured, why not go ahead and give you my opinion on what vehicles you should be looking into, at least to when it comes to this 50%. But keep in mind, all of this is going to be entirely subjective. But before I go ahead and get started, I would like to plug this in because it does help me out tremendously. If you didn't already know, I do have a 3% discount to the War Thunder store. Anything you buy in there, you get an added 3% off. But unfortunately, it does not apply to the 50% discount. It did in the previous sales. It doesn't in this one. I guess Gaijin kind of caught on, unfortunately, but it is what it is. However, should you decide you would like to use that 3% anyways, at any given point, or even right now, I still see that 3%. And also, you get my in-game decal, okay? I'd rather be transparent. This is something that's affecting all of us creators. Our 3% doesn't stack on top of that 50%, which is a shame. I thought it would have. It would have been nice, but hey, if you guys want to help me out as a creator, there you go. And another thing, the vehicles I'm going to be talking about are the ones I would recommend. It doesn't necessarily mean that these vehicles are going to work for you. Use your own desires, I guess, or act on your own desires for whichever vehicle you want to go ahead and purchase. I'm going to do my best by using my own personal experience by recommending certain vehicles. Now, seeing that I am a high tier / top tier player in terms of what I play, most of the vehicles I will be mentioning are going to be mostly high tier vehicles. And to that I say, if you are someone who is new into this game, do not buy top tier premiums, or if you do, hold out on doing that until you're sitting at a proper BR of, say, maybe 6.7. Once you're there, you'll have an understanding of how War Thunder really is, and then maybe you can use that premium vehicle in the higher tiers to get into that more newer yet somewhat familiar environment. And also, it saves us from dealing with one death levers, just saying. So let's go ahead and begin. Now, each of the vehicles I will be talking about, I did do a video on, I believe, all of them. I will have a little card linked right above here should you guys want to go ahead and take a look at the actual full in-depth review that I have made about these vehicles. Now, the first one I want to go ahead and talk about is one that is not exactly top tier, but it is one that I would highly recommend, and that is this, the King Tiger pack. It goes for 20 USD. This is a vehicle that I personally own and have deeply enjoyed over the years. In fact, 6.7, in my opinion, is probably one of the best well-rounded BRs in War Thunder in terms of overall armor capabilities, firepower, mobility, etc. You won't run into too many darts, if at all. You won't run into any heats, if at all. Or, excuse me, you will run into some, but not too many. And the Tigers themselves are very versatile, well-rounded platforms, in my opinion, to which I would say this would probably be the best investment for you. At least it was for me. And up next is one that I find to be one of my personal favorites, the T55 AM1. Now, this is a fairly recent favorite of mine, but it is a vehicle that I have been familiar with for years now, and in my opinion, is probably one of the most well-rounded Russian tanks for its respective BR. That is battle rating 8.3. Now, 8.3 for the Russians is incredibly nice. It's incredibly well-rounded, it's filled, and you don't really see as many up tiers since 9.3 doesn't really exist as much as, say, battle rating 9.7, but we'll get to that part at least a little bit later in this video. Now, the T55 does have a crap disable round, I'll give it that. No thermal sights, but what it does have is great mobility, decent armor for the most part, good optics for what it is, a missile, actually a decent ATGM, and a laser rangefinder, and pairing that with the BR-412D APCBC round, which in my opinion is one of the best well-rounded APCBCs in the game, at least for its caliber, and it makes for a pretty damn good experience. And 8.3 is just a lot of fun. Those down tiers, oh man, they are just take my word for it, they're a lot of fun. And up next is another personal favorite of mine, the XM1 GM, a vehicle that is basically a premium Abrams. It has all the characteristics you would find with it, minus the top tier status and the armor to go with it. Now, this vehicle is very mobile, it's very quick, responsive, it has decent firepower, wonderful optics, and it does sit at battle rating 9.3, which you'd be surprised how often it doesn't really get to fight those 10.0s, 10.3s, but it does on occasion, seeing that everyone is currently playing the premium stuff right now. And seeing that 9.3 is kind of a slightly unstable tier, I wouldn't really recommend it as much as I would like to, seeing that 9.3 doesn't really like to see down tiers or add tier games, seeing that 9.3 doesn't really exist as well as you think, although if you do get into one, this thing is incredibly formidable. And also, it does teach you how to play the M1 Abrams when you decide to grind for it. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the next one, shall we? Well, this is one I didn't want to do, but I'm gonna do it. Guys, the Black Shark, the KA-50, it's a good buy. Man, I hate saying this, I really do. I'm just perpetuating the stupidness of top tier to when it comes to helicopters. And trust me when I say this vehicle is incredibly annoying to fight, not only against, but also fight with, because these are vehicles that if you have even just a slight amount of brain cells with this thing, and I don't mean to insult anyone with it, I promise, this thing can be absolutely devastating in the semi-right hands, meaning that you can do very well in this should you decide you want to go ahead and buy it. But keep in mind, this vehicle is not forgiving in the sense that if you don't know what you're doing and you fly up, SPAA is going to counter you very quickly, because trust me, when they're fighting against the Russians, which you are, they will be looking out for you entirely. This vehicle has a wonderful amount of capabilities. Missile approach warning, it has a good gun for close in, it has good rockets should you decide you want to do the early game close run-ins, and those Vickers missiles are some of the best missiles in the game. You get proxy, you get decent penetration for tanks around 850 or 800 or so millimeters, although you have 12 of them, and you can guide each and every single one of them to your target in one quick salvo. It's stupid, but it works. Now, I'm just gonna say this: if you buy this, cool, but I feel dirty just saying this. So let's just go to the next one, yeah. And next up is a vehicle that I would highly recommend, the CV90-105 for 30 USD. You get a vehicle that gives you DM33 with Gen 2 thermal sights, decent optics, a wonderful commander's sight to offset that, and you have excellent mobility for a light tank. You get scouting, you get the little UAV drone, the unarmed one, thankfully, and it's just a vehicle that, in truth, I would highly recommend, seeing that Sweden is a powerhouse at top tier. I mean, I'm not kidding. They have some of the best Leopards in the game. They have the best Leopard in the game currently. They have some of the best IAVs, some of the best light tanks, and also they have decent helicopters, but the only downside is their CAS really isn't that great. So I would recommend this, but the same logic applies for my previous picks, which would be if you don't have any experience with high tier, I would not recommend this to the new player. Build up in the game first, use this when you can. Try not to rely on it too much, because trust me, it will drive you nuts. But when it comes to this one, it's still a very nice experience. So with that being said, let's go off to the next one. And another one I would recommend is the Merkava Mk. Now, this one was kind of iffy because it did get an increase of battle rating 9.3, which is a fine area for it, but it does get the DM33 equivalent 105, which is the M416, I think it was. I completely forget. You can watch the video here should you decide you want to get this. This thing may be a tall vehicle, but it is very punchy. It can survive some pretty gnarly hits, but keep in mind that this thing is very tall, meaning that you are not going to hide. It's very loud, but the cool thing about this is that this thing, again, can take plenty of good hits should the players not know what to do really. And you'd be surprised how that upper front plate next to the breach is very trolly, and it is very difficult to breach this if you make even the slightest incorrect shot on this vehicle. And also, you don't get NATO hump. That's right, you can look directly behind you with this thing, and you'd be surprised how often it saved my butt, no pun intended. And last, but most certainly not least, is the German Term 3 pack. Now, this vehicle doesn't need any introduction. It has a 105 auto-loading cannon, which is amazing, a 30mm coaxial cannon. It also has great mobility, excellent gun handling, so that means good turret reverse. It has good elevation and gun depression, although the flip side about this is that you have very little armor, so anything that shoots you is most likely going to kill you. But with that 5-second auto-loading and that coaxial cannon, it's not really something you should fear too much. But keep in mind that if you want to play this thing very ballsy, you can do so, but I would tread very lightly for this vehicle. And for 25 USD for a battle rating 8.0 vehicle, which is pretty good for the Germans, this is one that I would most certainly highly recommend to you. And that's it. Those are my recommendations to you. Now, I would have added, say, the Terms or the Panzer Battalion, Leopard 2A4, etc. But those vehicles, in truth, they're a little bit too high tier. Meaning that I would not want to recommend those to some of the newer players who are watching this video, who are just very unfamiliar with my channel. I would say to you, try to look into some of the lower tier stuff around the 8.0 to 9.7 at the very most before you want to go ahead and start looking into those 10.0, 10.3, 10.7 type tanks, including the squadron vehicles, etc. Because that's not even the last thing I want to do, is bring some newbies that are some of you guys into the high tier environment for me to farm you, because I will. We do it all the time. Some of us will love to see this. I'm just gonna admit it plain and simple to you guys. Don't do that, trust me, because we will farm you. But that's all I got for you guys. Again, should you decide you want to go ahead and buy any of these vehicles, it may not benefit you too much, but feel free to use my 3% discount code, as it does benefit me very much as a creator. And to those who have used it and are planning on using it, to you, I say thank you very much. You're keeping the dream alive. You're keeping me doing this 24/7. And that's really it. I can't thank you guys enough. So if you want to catch some of this gameplay live, you know where to find me over on Twitch. Link is down in the description below. And as always, I hope you guys did enjoy everything, and I will see you not only in the next video or even the streams, but in War Thunder itself. Good luck with the rest of that Sturm Tiger grind, and I look forward to seeing those in the battlefield very soon.